The situation between Melody and Destiny did not happen overnight. It wasn't a single fight, a sudden betrayal, or a moment of misunderstanding. It was years in the making, a slow, almost imperceptible accumulation of broken trust, ignored boundaries, and unhealed emotional wounds. These moments may have seemed small or inconsequential at the time, but over the years they built into a pattern, quietly shaping Melody's perception of her relationships and her own emotional safety. By the time Destiny approached her with an apology, the dynamics had already shifted in ways that Destiny likely did not anticipate. Melody was no longer the same person she had been in the past. She had evolved. She had learned to protect herself, to value her peace above all else, and to recognize that reconnecting with someone who had repeatedly caused her pain would come at too high a cost. This was not about holding grudges. It was about self-preservation, growth, and clarity of boundaries. Melody had invested years into rebuilding herself after both public heartbreak and personal betrayal, and in that rebuilding, she had discovered a truth that many struggle to grasp. Sometimes the most courageous act is to walk away, calmly, firmly, and without explanation. Destiny, however, seemed to expect that a simple apology would be enough to erase the past. She approached Melody with words of regret, explanations of her intentions, and perhaps even a hope for immediate forgiveness. What she did not anticipate was the depth of Melody's transformation. Melody was no longer someone who tolerated confusion, excuses, or emotional manipulation. She had reached a point where her peace and emotional stability mattered more than reconciling with people who had once caused her pain. She had learned that forgiveness does not automatically grant access. It does not require reopening doors that were closed for valid reasons. She had learned that true growth demands accountability, consistency, and genuine acknowledgement of harm, and that empty words, however well-intentioned, could not undo years of repeated behavior. When Destiny began speaking, Melody listened. She heard the words, but she did not bend, she did not soften, and she did not allow nostalgia to cloud her judgment. That calm, firm response was a reflection of the journey she had undertaken to rebuild her life on her own terms. The tension between them was not a new development. It was rooted in a history of rumors, shifting alliances, and repeated moments where loyalty and trust had been expected but never fully delivered. Melody had endured times when Destiny spoke negatively about her in private or public, questioned her honesty, and aligned herself with people who actively contributed to Melody's emotional harm. These were not minor disagreements. These were events that left lasting scars, both personally and publicly, and shaped Melody's understanding of who she could trust and how she needed to protect herself moving forward. One particularly painful issue was Destiny's handling of private matters in public spaces. Labeling someone a liar in front of others is not something that fades with time. That label follows a person, shaping how they are perceived, trusted, and treated by others. Melody had experienced the lasting consequences of such public betrayals and knew that simply hearing the word sorry could not erase the damage that had been done. Intentions, while important, cannot erase impact. As the conversation unfolded, Destiny attempted to explain her actions, her perspective, and the motivations behind her behavior. She spoke about her feelings, perhaps hoping that Melody would understand or empathize, but explanation is not the same as accountability. Melody was not interested in hearing why Destiny acted the way she did. What she sought was acknowledgement of the harm caused, without excuses or justifications. She wanted recognition that her trust had been violated, that her dignity had been questioned, and that the public misrepresentation of her character had real consequences. Throughout the exchange, Melody maintained her composure. Her voice was calm, her words measured, and her presence assured. This calmness was not a sign of weakness or indifference. It was a sign of certainty and self-assuredness. She knew exactly where she stood, and she was unafraid to enforce the boundaries she had worked so hard to establish. This was a significant shift from her past self, who may have sought to placate or explain rather than protect her own well-being. The pivotal moment of the conversation came when Destiny's past comment about Melody's mother resurfaced. Bringing family into personal conflict crosses a line that is difficult, if not impossible, to repair. Such comments are deeply personal, unnecessary, and profoundly hurtful. Melody was visibly affected because this comment reflected a lack of respect that went beyond ordinary friendship issues. Destiny admitted that her words were poorly chosen, but instead of fully accepting the impact of her actions, she attempted to justify them. For Melody, this was the breaking point. She made it abundantly clear that intent does not erase impact, and that hurt does not disappear simply because someone claims to have meant well. True accountability, she explained, requires accepting responsibility without defending oneself. It requires acknowledging pain without redirecting blame. Destiny struggled with this concept, oscillating between expressions of regret and self-protective explanations. She wanted forgiveness, yet also desired understanding and empathy for herself. This difference in mindset revealed a fundamental reason why the friendship could no longer continue. Melody had done the work to heal, whereas Destiny remained focused on being heard rather than genuinely listening. The conversation was not about a single apology. It was about patterns of behavior repeated over years. Melody recounted instances when Destiny ended calls with her only to speak with individuals who were actively working against her. She reminded Destiny of moments when trust had been quietly broken, again and again, without regard for the consequences. Each example reinforced Melody's stance. She was not being harsh or vindictive, she was being honest, and honesty can often be uncomfortable when it exposes truths that someone may not be prepared to face. Destiny appeared surprised by Melody's firmness. She may have expected softness, perhaps even an immediate reconciliation, but Melody had no intention of negotiating her peace. Her objective was closure, not comfort for the other party. The power of this moment lay in Melody's control. She did not insult Destiny, raise her voice, or attack her character. She simply stated facts and explained their effects on her life. That level of composure is the hallmark of true growth. Melody's response highlighted an important distinction. Forgiveness does not require access. She was capable of acknowledging an apology without reopening her life to someone who had repeatedly caused her harm. Too often, people confuse forgiveness with reconciliation. Melody demonstrated that they are not the same. The aftermath of this exchange spread rapidly online, resonating with many who had experienced similar situations. Friends or acquaintances who return with apologies but no real change, people who minimize harm while seeking understanding, and individuals who assume that history can be rewritten with a single heartfelt statement. Melody's response resonated because it reflected self-respect, clarity, and a refusal to allow emotions to override logic. She did not allow nostalgia or the weight of history to dictate her actions. She chose clarity over comfort, boundaries over drama, and calm over chaos. Breaking news hit the internet like wildfire. Melody Shari, the woman who has spent years reclaiming her peace and happiness, has officially rejected Destiny Payton's apology, and it's causing a social media storm the likes of which no one saw coming. You might be asking, how did it even get this far? Well, buckle up, because this story is full of drama, betrayal, and emotional fireworks that read like a reality TV script brought to life. Melody has been living in a space of calm, prioritizing her own joy and emotional stability after years of public conflict and personal heartbreak. But Destiny, the former friend with a history of stirring drama and chaos, apparently thought she could stroll back into Melody's life, a few words of regret in hand, and make everything okay again. The audacity is almost laughable if it weren't real, with real people and real feelings, and the internet completely captivated by every word, every nuance of this interaction. And the story doesn't stop at the apology. It's a reminder of what happens when boundaries are ignored and emotional manipulation is allowed to fester unchecked. Sources close to the situation, speaking on condition of anonymity because nobody wants to be caught in this crossfire, describe a friendship that was once close but slowly became toxic. Alliances shifted, rumors circulated, and trust was broken in ways that could never be repaired. Melody's life after her divorce from Martell was already complicated, and Destiny's connections and behind-the-scenes maneuvering only amplified the tension. While Melody focused on rebuilding, on her family, her own personal growth, and her peace of mind, Destiny was allegedly whispering in corners, trying to manipulate situations, and creating drama behind the scenes. And then came the moment that would change everything: the confrontation. From the very first greeting, tension was palpable. Melody was calm and composed, projecting an inner strength that immediately set the tone. Destiny, in contrast, clearly expected warmth or perhaps even forgiveness, and she did not get it. The conversation escalated quickly as Destiny attempted to reopen old wounds and offer explanations for past events, hoping to rationalize her behavior and smooth over the years of hurt she caused. But Melody, having invested years in healing and reclaiming her life, was not there to revisit trauma or entertain excuses. She calmly and decisively recounted the ways Destiny had violated boundaries over the years, from spreading rumors to forming alliances with people who actively harmed her, and even to the moments when Destiny ended phone calls with her only to speak with others undermining her. Every instance Melody brought up was precise, intentional, and backed by the facts of their shared history. She made it abundantly clear that such behavior was unacceptable and would no longer be tolerated. Observers described Melody's responses as sharp but controlled, a level of composure that only comes from true emotional growth and experience. Every word she spoke carried weight, revealing not only the depth of the betrayal she endured, but also the clarity and confidence she now possesses. The tension reached its peak when Destiny brought up Melody's mother, Miss Van, making an allegedly cruel remark about Melody being exploited. The room reportedly fell silent, stunned at the audacity and insensitivity of the comment. Destiny attempted to justify her words, claiming they were intended to make a point or to highlight perceived issues within Melody's family, but Melody refused to accept this reasoning. She reminded everyone present, and Destiny in particular, that true accountability is not about offering explanations or shifting blame. It is about recognizing the harm you caused and taking full responsibility for it, without excuses. Melody remained calm, factual, and unwavering, showing a level of composure that made it clear she had no intention of allowing toxic energy back into her life. Every defense Destiny offered, every attempt to rationalize or soften her words, only reinforced why Melody had walked away in the first place. This confrontation was never just about a single apology. It was the culmination of years of unresolved tension, betrayal, and public drama. Melody's refusal to accept Destiny's apology demonstrated her commitment to her own peace and growth. She understood that forgiveness does not automatically equate to reconciliation. Doors that have been closed for a reason are not meant to be reopened. While Destiny may have viewed the encounter as a chance at reconciliation, Melody saw it for what it truly was: confirmation that the past was behind her, and it would remain there. Her ability to listen, respond with clarity, and maintain composure highlighted a maturity and self-respect that is both inspiring and, for some, intimidating. Social media exploded with admiration as fans praised her calm demeanor and applauded the way she set boundaries without drama, without rage, and without apology for protecting her peace. The fallout from this confrontation is already reverberating online. People are speculating about the impact on mutual social circles, potential public statements, and even analyzing every word exchanged. What is indisputable is that Melody has reached a point in her life where she refuses to allow trauma, manipulation, or negativity back into her space. She has reclaimed her joy, built unbreakable boundaries, and demonstrated that walking away is not a sign of weakness, but a profound statement of strength. Destiny's apology, rather than mending the past, only illuminated why Melody had chosen to leave it behind. The lies, the manipulations, and the disrespect are now firmly in her rearview mirror. Melody's insistence on prioritizing her own peace over explanations shows her growth and self-respect in stark contrast to Destiny's lack of accountability. This confrontation is a powerful reminder that some relationships are meant to end because growth takes people in different directions. Melody's journey from heartbreak to empowerment is not just a personal story, it is a lesson in self-respect, emotional intelligence, and the importance of surrounding yourself with people who honor your boundaries and your peace. Destiny, on the other hand, underestimated just how unshakable Melody had become. Every attempt to explain or justify past behavior fell flat, highlighting why the friendship had ended years ago. Melody did not negotiate, did not plead, and did not soften her stance. She addressed every point with precision, recounting moments of irrevocable betrayal, broken trust, and flagrantly ignored boundaries. The tension in the room reportedly became almost palpable, as if the years of unresolved conflict had been compressed into one intense, decisive confrontation. The true turning point came with Destiny's comments about Melody's mother resurfacing, a line so cruel and inappropriate it revealed not just insensitivity, but a fundamental misunderstanding of acceptable behavior in personal relationships. Destiny attempted to defend herself, saying her words were misunderstood, that she had apologized, and that her comments were intended to make a point or to highlight perceived issues within Melody's family. But Melody refused to accept this reasoning. She reminded everyone present, and Destiny in particular, that true accountability is not about offering explanations or shifting blame. It is about recognizing the harm you caused and taking full responsibility for it, without excuses. Melody remained calm, factual, and unwavering, showing a level of composure that made it clear she had no intention of allowing toxic energy back into her life. Every defense Destiny offered, every attempt to rationalize or soften her words, only reinforced why Melody had walked away in the first place. This moment was a reminder that time alone does not heal relationships, silence does not erase harm, and distance does not automatically equate to resolution. Healing requires acknowledgement, accountability, and consistent change. Melody had done the work to heal herself. Destiny had not. Destiny appeared to hope for a reset, to move forward without addressing the past in a meaningful way. But Melody knew that moving forward without repair only leads back to the same cycle of pain. She had already been there, and she was unwilling to repeat it. The exchange also demonstrated a deeper truth about personal growth. It can feel threatening to those who have not undertaken the same journey. When someone sets firm boundaries, it forces others to confront their own behavior. Melody presented a version of herself who could no longer be swayed, guilted, or softened. The discomfort that Destiny experienced was not accidental, it was necessary. Growth and accountability are uncomfortable, especially when they expose truths others would rather avoid. Melody's decision to protect her peace was not an act of revenge, it was an act of self-respect, dignity, and emotional survival. She did not reject Destiny to hurt her, she rejected the cycle that had once caused her pain. She acknowledged the apology but refused to grant the access or intimacy that had previously allowed repeated hurt. This distinction is crucial. Choosing oneself over a toxic dynamic is not weakness, it is wisdom. Melody demonstrated that healing does not require pleasing others, it requires honoring your own needs and boundaries. Sometimes the bravest and most powerful act is not forgiveness, it is choosing yourself. In doing so, Melody sent a clear message. Some doors are not meant to reopen, and some relationships belong to the past for good reason. Walk away. Protect your peace. Honor your growth. Healing is not about pleasing others, it's about respecting yourself. Melody's story is a reminder that emotional maturity, self-respect, and boundaries are not acts of cruelty, they are acts of wisdom. Forgiveness can exist without reconciliation. Growth can outpace old patterns, and sometimes the strongest, most dignified move is to say no calmly and clearly, without explanation. In choosing herself, Melody showed that walking away can be the most courageous, empowering, and transformative act of all.